Good evening, it's Wednesday the 13th of August and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Trade tension. India urges nationwide boycott of US goods following steep tariff impositions. Conflict escalation. Deadly Israeli strike pound Gaza, claiming at least 89 lives in 24 hours. Animal sanctuary. Capybara cafe provides unique interactive experience while supporting wildlife rescue efforts.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Aquil Qureshi.
Good evening once again. India is calling for a boycott of US-based multinationals including Apple, Amazon and Coca-Cola, following nearly 50% tariffs imposed by the Trump administration on India exports. Supporters of Prime Minister Modi and business leaders are fielding anti-American sentiment, escalating trade tensions and prompting concerns about economic growth and sectoral impacts.
From McDonald's and Coca-Cola to Apple and Amazon, giant US brands are facing calls for a boycott in India. It's a protest against Trump's 50% tariffs on Indian goods, with business executives and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's supporters stoking anti-American sentiment. India's a key growth market for American companies, with increasingly affluent consumers often associating international brands with moving up in life. The world's most populous nation, for example, has more Domino's restaurants than any other brand. Drinks like Pepsi and Coca-Cola often dominate store shelves too. And people still queue up when an Apple store opens or a Starbucks cafe gives out discounts. Despite no immediate indication of sales being hit, there's a growing narrative to buy local instead. It's rattled exporters and damaged ties between New Delhi and Washington. And on Sunday, Modi made a special appeal for becoming self-reliant.
Russian President Vladimir Putin briefed North Korea leader Kim Jong-un on his upcoming Alaska summit with US President Trump, praising North Korea's support in Kursk region. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky firmly rejected Russia's demand to withdraw from Donbas, insisting on security guarantees before any ceasefire negotiations.
The two discussed the planned Trump-Putin talks in Alaska on Friday, which are aimed at efforts to end the war in Ukraine over the phone. Putin also shared his appreciation for Pyongyang's support of Russian operations in the western frontline Kursk region, praising what he called the valor, heroism, and selflessness of North Korean troops. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Tuesday stressed his country will not give up the Donbas region as part of a ceasefire deal with Russia. The comments come as Moscow is demanding that Ukraine withdraw from the entire eastern Donbas region as a condition for a peace deal.
Australia and Vanuatu have agreed to a 500 million Australian dollars deal known as Nakamal Agreement to bolster economic and security ties over the next decade. The agreement includes investments in infrastructure, climate resilience and labour mobility. It will be formally signed in the coming weeks.
Australia and Vanuatu reached a 500 million Australian dollar deal today aimed at strengthening economic and security cooperation over the next decade. Named the Nakamal Agreement, the pact is set to include investments across multiple sectors such as infrastructure, defence collaboration and climate resilience projects, providing long-term support to Vanuatu while reinforcing Australia's strategic presence in the Pacific. Vanuatu Prime Minister Jotam Napat highlighted that the agreement would be mutually beneficial, boosting economic growth and security preparedness. Australia's Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles confirmed that the formal signing of the deal by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Napat is expected in the coming weeks. This initiative demonstrates both nations' commitments to deeper engagement amid rising geopolitical competition in the region. The Nakamal Agreement comes as Vanuatu has increasingly strengthened ties with China, its largest external creditor, following a decade of infrastructure loans, including the construction of a new presidential office. Analysts suggest Australia's investment aims to counterbalance Beijing's growing influence in the Pacific while providing Vanuatu with alternative sources of funding, economic support, and security collaboration, ensuring regional stability and resilience.
A police firearm discharged during an attempted arrest at Sydney Airport today, prompting a partial lockdown. Authorities swiftly secured the area. An individual involved was taken into custody. No injuries were reported. An investigation is underway to determine the circumstances of the incident.
The final moments of a mad struggle. AFP officers and 2 Good Samaritans pinned the man to the floor. Seconds earlier, as they wrestled, a police officer's rifle discharges. William Wiltshire was one of the 2 men who jumped in. For him, it was second nature. He is a former cop.
The thought that crossed my mind is if you got 3 of us, particularly with a firearm of that type, it could have been catastrophic.
Even with all that help, it was still a battle.
A very difficult person to control, but he was very, very powerful indeed.
It was 6 a.m. near Wine Selectors and Fat Yak Bar just outside Gate 49, where a Jetstar flight was about to take off to Cairns. And when it landed, passengers had no idea what happened back in Sydney.
He grabbed a gun and it went off. So everyone's safe though?
Everyone's safe.
The bullet punching a hole in the wall of a nearby cafe.
When that firearm discharged, it was very low to the ground and was ultimately lodged only a metre away from where the firearm was discharged into an oven into that cafe.
It was airport staff that dobbed him in for acting suspiciously at the check-in area. They recognised him from the day before.
The male was known to police. We had dealt with him yesterday in relation to a number of incidents about his behaviour.
The 41-year-old from Victoria taken into custody and later charged with creating a disturbance at an airport and resisting a Commonwealth official.
I still can't believe it. It's miraculous that no one was struck by the projectile.
The AFP have been using this type of firearm since 2019. It was rolled out in all Australian airports to bring our counter-terrorism response up to world standards. It's classified a short-barrelled rifle, more specifically the Daniel Defence MK18. It has a 3-positioned safety selector, safe, semi and fully automatic. How the gun discharged is now the focus of an internal AFP investigation.
Typhoon Padul made landfall in southeastern Taiwan earlier today, bringing winds up to 191 kilometers per hour. The storm led to cancellations of 252 domestic and 129 international flights, primarily from Kaohsiung and Taeyon airports. Over 5,000 residents were evacuated.
Authorities in Taiwan have issued extensive precautionary measures as Typhoon Podol approaches the southeastern coast. The Transport Ministry confirmed the cancellation of 252 domestic flights and 129 international flights, effectively grounding most air travel. Major carriers including China Airlines and EVA Air focused cancellations on Kaohsiung routes, with some flights from Taoyuan International Airport also suspended. Airport departure halls were reported nearly empty, reflecting the seriousness of the anticipated impact. Meteorologists have classified Podol as a mid-strength typhoon with wind gusts reaching up to 191 km per hour. The storm was heading towards the city of Taitang, where it is expected to make landfall. Authorities have warned of severe rainfall, storm surges and strong winds that could damage infrastructure, disrupt transportation and lead to flooding in low-lying areas across the southeastern region of the island. In preparation for Podol's arrival, local governments have activated emergency response protocols, including evacuations in vulnerable areas and temporary suspension of schools and public offices. Disaster management teams are monitoring river levels, landslide-prone zones, and coastal regions. Residents have been advised to secure property, avoid travel, and stay updated through official channels, highlighting the island's proactive approach to minimizing casualties and damage.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. In Kalispell, Montana, 2 small planes collided on the runway, engulfing the area in flames. Remarkably, only 2 individuals sustained minor injuries. Emergency responders swiftly contained the fire, and the incident is under investigation. Authorities are working to determine the cause of the collision.
This morning, 4 passengers walking away from a fiery scene.
We are on scene. We do have 2 planes on fire at this time.
Authorities say one plane with 4 people on board was attempting to land at Montana's Kalispell City Airport Monday afternoon, but the pilot careening off the runway and striking another plane on the ground. Luckily, that other plane was empty. The plane left charred and in pieces on the runway. Ron Danielson witnessing the dramatic scene.
I knew it was bad. I immediately ran towards the fence. I was going to jump it. And as I got to the fence, the biggest explosion I have ever seen.
Incredibly, all 4 passengers were able to get out on their own, 2 of them suffering only minor injuries.
Israeli airstrikes on Gaza have killed at least over 80 Palestinians in 24 hours, including 15 people waiting for food. The escalation follows global outcry over 6 journalist deaths and the previous day as well. Humanitarian conditions worsen as international mediators push for a ceasefire, while Israel maintains Hamas in obstructing aid.
Gazans are seeing both food and bombs fall from the sky. The Hamas-run Civil Defense Agency says air attacks have intensified since Israel decided to expand its military operations. Here in Khan Yunis, residents mourned those killed in a drone attack.
What have we done? What is the fault of these children whose future lives and schools have been lost? We've been scattered and displaced 1 million times since October 7th.
And while casualty mounts each day, food, water and other essentials are in short supply. Hundreds of lorries carrying them are lining up, but Israel is holding most of them up.
Why use the plane? What's it going to do? Why don't they let the aid lorries in with airdrops that just making fun of us? It's all for nothing.
This 5-year-old boy has just starved to death. His weight had dropped to 7 kilograms, below the average for a 6-month-old baby. According to Gaza's health ministry, close to 230 people have died from malnutrition, around half of them children. In a joint statement on Tuesday, foreign ministers from 24 Western countries said, quote, "Famine is unfolding before our eyes," calling for immediate and concrete steps to allow more aid into Gaza. The Elders Group, consisting of former world leaders, blamed Israel for causing famine in Gaza, calling the war for the first time an unfolding genocide. Israel denies there is starvation in Gaza as it prepares to occupy the territory. The World Health Organization says it needs to be able to stock up essential supplies before Israel seizes control of the city.
European leaders and Ukrainian President Zelensky will hold online talks with US President Trump today to affirm Ukraine's right to its internationally recognized borders. This discussion comes ahead of Trump's Alaska summit with Russia's Putin, as Kyiv and EU officials express concerns over potential territorial concessions in a ceasefire deal.
In Belozersk, in Ukraine's Donetsk region, residents are fleeing.
It's been 3 days since they started attacking us so heavily. It was normal before. We were sitting there, it was quiet.
Military experts say Russian forces have advanced in a narrow but strategic sector of the front in recent days. Several key cities are now at risk, among them Pokrovsk and Kostiantynivka, the last 2 major cities in the region still held by Ukraine. Russian troops are also reported to have crossed the T-0514 supply route linking Dobropilya to Kramatorsk. Analysts say Russia is relying on small infantry units to gain footholds. In his daily briefing on Tuesday, the Ukrainian president downplayed the situation.
Today we received reports from our military, the front line, especially Dobropilya and the Pokrovsk direction. Steps have been taken there to remedy the situation, and I am grateful to every unit, every one of our soldiers who are now destroying the occupiers.
The push comes just days before the planned summit between US President Donald Trump and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, talks Volodymyr Zelensky has not been invited to.
Bolivia faces its worst economic crisis in decades as voters prepare for the August 17 presidential election. Inflation has surged to 24.8%, while severe fuel shortages disrupt daily life across the country. Citizens and political leaders are bracing for a tense election amid growing economic hardship and public unrest.
Cars, buses, and trucks wait in long lines for fuel in Bolivia. The country faces severe shortages as it approaches Sunday's presidential election. Among those waiting is Sagusatiano Copa Flores.
We sleep here like dogs with only one blanket, waiting for diesel. We no longer go to our beds, our house, our home to see our children, or at least hug our children. Nothing. We sleep like dogs with barely a blanket, waiting for diesel. We live here sitting until 3 a.m. This is our home. We don't have soda or water to drink.
No tenemos ni un refresco ni agua para tomar. The landlocked South American nation faces its worst economic crisis in years as inflation soars to 25%, a 4-decade high. Outgoing President Luis Arce's government faces mounting pressure as foreign currency reserves dwindle due to declining natural gas production and exports. The dominant Movement to Socialism, or MAS party, which has ruled since 2006, now enters the election as a fractured force with multiple factions competing. Polls show the party winning only about 12% of the vote, while center-right businessman Samuel Doria Medina leads with over 50% support from betting markets. Evo Morales, who ruled the country from 2006 to 2019 under the MAS banner, has been barred from running for another term as president. Adding to the economic woes, Bolivia's lithium industry remains underdeveloped despite vast reserves. The metal is in high demand for electric car batteries, among other applications. Gonzalo Mondaca is a researcher at the Bolivian Documentation and Information Center.
The government has had 17 years to determine lithium reserves, conduct hydrogeological studies, and assess the impact of different mining systems. But it is inviting foreign partners and welcoming them with empty hands. It is promising them potential resources without even providing data on reserves.
De recursos, no les está dando ni siquiera datos de reservas. Entonces, me parece que
the situation is so critical that it could be considered treason because 17 years of work have gone by, and we have not laid the groundwork for industrializing these resources.
Bases para luego hacer industrialización de los recursos.
If no presidential candidate secures more than 40% of the vote with at least a 10-point lead, a runoff will take place on October 19th.
Time for a short commercial break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Capybaras, the world's largest rodents, are known for their calm and friendly nature. At a Florida animal sanctuary, these gentle creatures are playing a surprising role in supporting other wildlife.
There aren't many places where you can pair your cup of joe with a capybara. But here at the Capybara Cafe in St. Augustine, Florida,
we're going to be feeding the capybaras.
They are the main attraction.
You take a piece of kale just like this.
Justin Burgess is head supervisor of the animal care team.
And you just put it right there in front of their face. They're very, very gentle about it.
What is?
Basically, you can think about a guinea pig that got to be 100, 150 pounds.
They have become hugely popular on social media, especially with young people who think they're simply cute.
I just find them so cute. I'm honestly speechless.
But to learn more about how this place came to be a Capybara Cafe, you have to visit the nearby Noah's Ark Animal Sanctuary, where anything from goats to tortoises who need help are rehabilitated. This sanctuary, however, runs on donations, which all but dried up during the COVID pandemic.
Eventually, it became an idea that we need to come up with something creative to get funding, or we're going to have to shut our doors and leave some of these animals out on the street. They happened to hear about capybara cafes out in Tokyo, Japan. They thought, well, we could probably do something similar to that.
Our capybaras can also actually bark, similar to how a dog or a prairie dog would.
Enter their 3 big cappies, aptly named Mocha, Latte, and Macchiato. For an entry fee, you can leave the cafe lobby and head into one of these rooms, where people can feed, pet, or just hang out with these laid-back rodents. David and Sam came from Atlanta.
So did you come here on vacation?
We did, specifically for this.
So you're hoping that people's fascination with these animals and keeping at least one species, these humans, very happy.
Residents in Los Angeles were startled when a 20-foot python was found lounging on a community dumpster. Unable to reach animal control, they called in Joseph Hart, the so-called reptile hunter, to safely remove the massive snake.
Residents in this building were unsure how to handle this situation. A 20-foot-long python was just hanging out on the dumpster where everyone threw their trash. Known as the reptile hunter.
She was frightened, as you can imagine. There's a lot of people there. She's just been in this weird situation, so she was really stressed out.
Joseph Hart says he knew he had to be careful with this animal. Pythons are strong and heavy. He said he didn't want to distress the snake.
I needed to move the dumpster and then get her off and put her on my body. So yeah, that's just good old-fashioned animal wrangling is how I got her out of the dumpster.
Hart, who also says he's a conservationist and educator, then taught the residents a little bit about their lengthy visitor. He says the python was experiencing some health issues and would need help to recover.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Akwel Qureshi, and we'll leave you tonight with the visuals of Ivorian dancers showcasing the spirit of Benin Festival. Also, don't forget to send in your feedback through our email address at feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp line on 076 805 7933. On the other side, we've got Prashantsa Gunavardhana, who'll be joining you next on Nightly Business Report. Thank you for watching. Good night.